I hate the fact that Cleotrapa and Ice Spice have this little beef going on the internet.
Is it still going?
I feel like it's still going. You know, I wanted to ask your opinion while we're talking about
Well, you know
this.
Cleo's
And
my cast.
I know.
So
That's why I want to talk to you about it, because it goes back to this entitlement thing. You know, she says that Ice Spice invited her on tour.
which is a great thing for Ice Spice to have done.
But, you know, she didn't treat her the best. Like, her security didn't grab her luggage, et cetera, et cetera. And folks on the internet I saw, you know, felt like she was being a little entitled. And others felt like, well, if that was Ice Spice's friend, then she should have took care of her.
Right.
You know? What I don't like about this, and I say this all the time, and not necessarily pertaining to them, it's just in general, when you fall out with someone that was supposed to be your friend, there are things that you are supposed to just not talk about.
Okay.
Because you friends at the time, y'all shared some things, whatever, text messages, whatever the case may be, shit in private moments. Like, if you're spilling my business after we had a falling out, that means you didn't fuck with me from the jump. I don't like chicks like that. I don't like the fact that when it's good, I could tell you anything, we good, we friends, but we had a falling out, you want to spill all the business on the internet. To me, I just feel like that's just for weak bitches. Like, I just think that's corny. I think it's corny for chicks to do that.
I wouldn't do that to my friends. I wouldn't go on the internet and blast my friends.
Even if
I
we're not
would go on
friends
the
no more.
internet and blast business colleagues or whatever if they violated me, right? Or I guess it depends, even with friends, it depends on the level of violation. And I think they just met like a couple years ago. I don't know how friendly they are in real life. I think on the internet, it looks like they're friends and they have probably a transactional relationship. And Cleo is an artist who is a social media influencer, so she has gained notoriety by being this person who's very outspoken on social media. And I'm not just defending her because she's on my cast. I'm saying, knowing her, knowing what she does, if I invite her on my tour, then I'm going to be smart about it, and I'm going to make sure that I don't do anything that is going to trigger what I know she already is famous for. So you put someone on your tour that is known for social media amplification of everything in her life. So you risk that when you put her on tour. And then you should have took care of her. If you knew that, and you know that there is a press debacle about to happen if you piss her off, right? Because Cleo is still a new artist, right? So she put her on tour. I believe Cleo said she didn't pay her for being on tour. Now, that's already setting yourself up to be in a situation that's adversarial with someone. Because it doesn't matter what I do. I appreciate every opportunity that people give me. But at a certain point, I'm like, okay, is this worth my time?
But that's something you should have negotiated between your managers ahead of
Absolutely.
time. So why wasn't your business taken care of?
And that's where Ice Spice should be able to come out and say, like, what you talking about? You didn't get paid. Like that.
That has
I invited you on
nothing to
tour.
do with me. That's up to your business.
She has every right to say that. And I think that they had this back and forth, and it got ugly, and I don't even know where it lands now.
Who do you think benefited more off of that? Because obviously Ice Spice is, when it comes to artists, Ice Spice is a bigger known
artist,
rapper, right? And, you know, Ice Spice is in the Dunkin' Donuts commercials with Ben Affleck, and she's on red carpets at all the award shows, and her music is streaming crazy and on tour and all of that stuff. Whereas Cleo, we just know her to be, you know, the social media influencer, correcting languages and grammar, you know, with the board and stuff like that. So I'm curious, who do you think benefited more from the opportunity?
I think Cleo would benefit more from the opportunity, right? Because I think for Ice Spice, it's more of a risk to put someone in your circle on your tour that potentially could jeopardize your image, right? So what I saw, is that, and the audience is split because a lot of people are like, yeah, that, Ice Spice was wrong, right? What I saw was you're on tour, you have all these things going for yourself, and now you have to deal with someone that the audience believes is your friend. I don't know if they're really friends, saying things about you and assassinating your character. Because that's ultimately what it is. So that's a risk on your team's part. There's always a talent management factor in that type of situation. So I think that when things were happening, right, I just knowing Cleo, I'm sure she had to express her feelings to someone.
Yeah.
So there was no damage control done. Like, how long did it take before, boom, she's out there talking about, like, what happened between them? I don't know. I don't know how long it was. Obviously it was a buildup. But there were a lot of accusations going back and forth between the two of them. So that's why I'm saying, like, it feels more transactional than it does like an actual friendship, because it's not like they sit down, like, hey, let's sit down, let's talk about this.
And the thing about those transactional relationships you got to be really careful of is when the transactions stop, it ultimately leaves someone feeling a certain type of way. You and I, we're seasoned professionals. We've been in this business a lot. We've helped a lot of people. We've put a lot of people on. Some folks benefited. Some folks fell by the wayside. But when you stop giving them the access or the transaction stops, then they love to paint a different picture about you. Mm-hmm. They forget about when it was working or benefiting from them. Right. When they were getting access to the parties, or they were getting access to the artists, or they were getting access to the red carpets, or sitting, courtside at a basketball game or at a fashion show, sitting next to the runway. When it was benefiting them, it was all good. But when the transaction stops, it always goes fucking south.
Well,
that's why it's like, listen, young girl, stop giving these bitches transactional access to you.
Well, there's a lot I could say. I have to dig deep into that, right? Because the alliances that a lot of these girls are forming, you never know if they're real, true, and genuine, or if they're for a look. Right? And we see a lot of it.
But one person always gets hip to it. Eventually, you get hip to it.
Right.
Like, you get hip to it. Like, this chick is only fucking with me because of what I'm able to give her. You get hip to it. You know what I'm saying? It's only a matter of time before you like, okay, yeah, I see it.
You think that Cleo was only messing with Ice Spice because of what Spice
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you said, how much were they friends, or was it a transactional relationship? I'm just talking about if it was a transactional relationship, one person always going to get hip to it. Like, once you're eventually going to get tired of the transactions.
Right, because I think, I hear what you're saying. I just think that,
not saying that this was their
right. We don't know the nature, like, really, like, what happens when it's not on social media, when they're not sitting courtside, right? Like, are they hanging out when really there's not a photo op?
Right. Are they really good?
Because are they both using each other, right?
Because eventually one person out of the relationship gets hip to it.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, bitch, I'm going to let you benefit off of me a few more times.
Right.
And then I'm going to start to ski. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to start.
But I do love that Ice Spice brought her on tour. I thought that was a genuine sort of thing to, like, I'm going to give you this opportunity, because it is an opportunity. Whether or not you're getting paid or not, like, look, I always want to get paid, but I do see the value. I know a lot of people who do things without getting paid to get to the next level. Mm-hmm. Right? And they put in that work. It's like almost like an internship.
Yeah.
Right?
But you got to have people negotiating the terms and stuff for you.
Right.
You know what I mean? I've worked with artists on a multifacets of their career.
Right.
And if I'm negotiating something, even if it's free,
Right.
or whatever,
You gotta
you gotta button it
make
up.
sure you get,
You gotta button it up.
Absolutely.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what's the per diem? You like smallest things, security, makeup, glam, bop, 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 bop. You gotta button it up. Especially when you're going on a multi-city tour of that magnitude. You gotta have some layers to it. So it's crystal clear.
Right.
No, bitch, you're not using my security because that's going to cost me X amount of extra dollars.
Right.
No, you can't use my makeup artist because now she's charging me for two people instead of one.
Right. So were those some of the concerns? I'm not even sure what the concerns were. Like, I know it was the luggage carrying.
Or even like going out to dinner, right? Like, because if I'm only budgeting for a staff of whatever and I got an extra amount, that's going to, for X amount of days, that's going to move the budget to XYZ. So a lot of that stuff got to be ironed out because it starts to catch up.
100%. That's true.
Right?
That's
because
true.
You're talking about...
Before you even go.
Right, because you're talking about... You're talking about meals, hotels, travel expenses, blah, 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 blah.
It's too much.
It's too much. It becomes a lot. Yeah. You got to iron that shit out.
Yeah, that's true. What I mean? That's true. So the business definitely was flawed, I think, and that kind of led to their tension.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.